Hello everybody, I'm Herb with Outdoors Tennessee. Today we're at Faith Center's Marina inside Hoppy's Harbor Grill. Folks, y'all need to check this place out. They've got boat rentals, cover slips. You can dine on the patio, watch the sunset. Hey, give them a call sometimes at 615-459-6219. Folks, we got a really good show for you today. We're going to have John Hopkins and Mickey Beck talking fishing. Hey, I'm excited about it, and I hope you like it. Thanks for watching.
I'm John Hopkins. This is Mickey Beck.
What's up?
We're here at Faith Center's Marina. Really, where it all got started, Mickey.
Yeah, you and me fished together, what, started to get 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like
I remember you showing up, little skinny boy, fishing with Ron Evans, and started taking a little money here and there, and I think we teamed up not long after that.
I think, yeah, me and Ron was fishing together. I come in here and we was going to Kentucky Lake, and I had a map pulled out and didn't know who you was. I kept hearing your name, and we had the map open. You need to go right there, start and throw a DD-22. That was in the conversation. You walked right out. That's the first time I met you.
Did you catch any fish?
Yeah, sure did. Sure did. I did. That was one of the sweetest spots on Kentucky Lake too.
That's the main thing. If you caught some fish right there.
Go up there now and catch a bunch of Asians.
Yeah, or see a bunch on them grabs anyway.
Yeah.
We fished a lot of tournaments out here in the fall, out here on Priest, and outside of crankbaits and topwater. We probably caught more fish than anything on just flipping a 3/8 ounce brush.
You talking about that one?
That one.
That one?
That one.
How much money? I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the shell cracker. You've had this out, what, 5 years of shell cracker?
Yeah, it had a prototype for a while, but had the bait out on the market for about a little over 5 years, probably 7 years maybe.
But you started me out. We started fishing shallow. Of course, I got neck issues because your hook set. Golly, boy, I still got neck pains. He'd scare the far out of me with that hook set. Sound like a 22 going off right next to you, but he popped them. But that 3/8 ounce jig, we won a lot of money out here on that lake.
Just fishing cracks. I tell people time and again that a lot of the thing is just pulling up to an area, and when you've lost faith in your moving baits or your top water, just milking it out with that jig.
Five bites in 8 hours.
Because when you get that fifth bite, it's over.
It is.
It's over because they'll matter.
We did that many times out here.
Did, absolutely. I can remember winning a Reed Durham fish off, I believe, on Old Hickory, and you won it on basically on a hog buzz.
Oh yeah, that right there. That is six.
You caught a 6 something, and that put us over the mark to slide in and win for a 2 day. I think we may have had 21 or 23 pounds.
Something like that. That was an interesting tournament there. That was right interesting.
And it was tight. I think we caught one at the spillway, flipping the spillway where the water runs in right above flipper.
Sure did.
What you want to call that. I think we caught one right there right before we came in and culled or got our 5th fish, something like that. But that was a fun time.
Let's back up. What about the 22 pounds that come out of the back of your boat one time? I think it was on that 3/8 ounce, wasn't it?
They what?
When we come in with Reed's tournament, we had 22 pounds. I was dragging old jig behind the boat. And
we got beat though.
Yeah, we did. We had come in with 22 something pounds at Old Hickory.
Come in with 22 pounds on Old Hickory and get beat by James Winters, another friend, and got beat on a Hoppy's jig.
Good man to get beat by too now.
Yeah, man, you're subject to get beat by on Old Hickory. I miss seeing James fishing out there more than.
Nah, he's on with them grandkids, though.
That's right. That's right.
I was doing some figuring when we come over here, man. And probably 15 years, just these two baits, between you and I combined together, as of now, we'd be pushing 100 between you and me, 100K. If you sit and think about it.
I would say every bit of it. I know, but I know between those two jigs, at least 7 BFL wins, maybe more than that, between those two jigs just in the last, I don't know, 10 years. But more so than anything, the flipping jig is designed for close quarter tactics, where the shell cracker, it has a hook design made for setting the hook on fish when he's out there, and object is to hook them as close to the center of the head as possible, and that pretty much gets done on a brush bug every time. When you're out there and got that line stretched out a little ways, it's a little harder to get that done.
Oh yeah.
So a sharp hook is very important, and for me, one that's not so thick. When you have to penetrate a big piece of metal, to me, now when you're close quarters flipping a jig, it's a little different story.
Yeah.
But when you have to penetrate a big piece of metal from a distance, I think a wire hook is a better way to go.
Well, going back to when you and me started fishing together, I mean, it was interesting to learn. I mean, you've been building lures all your life, and for you to analyze the gauge of a wire, I'll never forget it on a spinnerbait. I couldn't get a spinnerbait through grass, and it's the gauge of the wire. You're teaching me the gauge of the wire and the gauge, the size of the hook, and coming up as a fisherman, I didn't analyze and understand all these things, and I was lucky to have him be able to fish with him, and for him to teach me a lot of this stuff. And
there's been times that I've had co-anglers and whatever in the back of my boat fishing BFLs or whatever it is that we're fishing. Heck, even a BASS event a time or two.
Yeah.
Those were invitationals when I fished them back in the day, but there'd be so many times where the guys, I'd fish a spinnerbait through grass, and there's no way they're going to get the spinnerbait through the grass, and the whole difference was 30 thousandths wire as opposed to 40, and watching the grass ball up on their spinnerbait, and I'm knowing that when I'm pulling my rod tip, that wire's collapsing and it lets free, and that's when you get the bite, when those blades let free of that grass. But
you're magic on that spinnerbait, so all I can tell you.
Just threw it a lot.
I'd rather have that jig in the hand than that spinnerbait. You know me.
Well, I tell you, they all have their day, and for me, growing up around the dock and getting to fish with my heroes or against my heroes in PBF and out here away from Priest caused me to really take days of fishing and fish one particular bait. I can remember watching D. Withers and John Huger tear up Smith Springs and lower end of the lake with a spinnerbait one day, and I was cranking. And we come in at the end of the day, and they had 17, 18 pounds, and I had 12 or 13. And I think I went out the next month and fished a spinnerbait. I may have been 13 or 14 years old when that happened, but I went out and I did nothing but fish a spinnerbait and learn how to fish a spinnerbait. There's been many days that, hell, when the lake's your babysitter, you'd go out there with a buzzbait and you want to see topwater bites, and so you
wouldn't throw that 1/8 ounce Grassmaster, would you? I know there's some stories behind that bad boy.
The Grassmaster, Clifford Dunn and I won. There's no telling how much money we won on the Grassmaster, and quite a bit of it at Old Hickory. A lot of days in the past when there was grass on Old Hickory, the flat across from Flippers that had grass all over it, and there'd be tons of people out there fishing it, but they wouldn't be fishing it in the middle of the day. And a lot of times back in that time, Flipper had a tournament every Sunday, and it was over at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it seemed like you turn a light switch on that flat with that Grassmaster after 12 o'clock. If there's a cloud come over the sky, just break up that bright sun, we'd go up there and catch them on that Grassmaster, and it was like clockwork. I don't know how many years we'd go up there and have just a little bit of weight, catch 2 or 3 and a half, 4 pounders.
I'm interested in hearing the next week. We've had 2 cold fronts, first frost coming. Somebody taught me that. You know, after 3 good cold nights and we got a frost coming, we got a lot of grass out here at Percy Priest.
Well, whenever there's scattered grass that you can cast across, I know some people like to throw a horny toad across it, but it's different when you're throwing a buzzbait across it, because first off, you don't have to penetrate a frog to get a hook in a fish, but really making long cast and casting across grass is what that bait's all about. And just like anything, spinnerbait blades getting caught up in the grass, when that buzzbait gets a little caught up in the grass, and you pop it loose, it makes a different little sound, and then all of a sudden when it breaks loose, they eat it.
We won't talk about changing blades on that Grassmaster. We'll just skip on to the next subject.
The ones on there now is one I'd rather fish.
Oh yeah.
Now, basically because you can cast it quite a bit farther.
It makes a different noise. It's more of a small profile, and the minnows we got right now ain't the size of your thumb, and that's, to me, I don't care if it's Old Hickory or Priest, this time of year they're busted in the minnows, and that would be the go-to. Besides this hog buzz, unless you've got 5 decent fish in a boat, I'd put that hog buzz on and go at it.
Well, in the wintertime, for me, and I say in the winter, when the water temperature gets below 55 degrees, I've caught more monsters out of Percy Priest on a hog buzz than I have anything, and it's hard for me to go away from it. I doctor mine a little bit. I don't really change the blades on them, but I do sometimes throw a swim bait or a grub on it.
You don't sometimes hold it out the window when you go into the lake, do you?
Well, you got to get them tuned in.
Buddy, it makes a different sound when you get a little war on them.
The more that bait's used, the better it is. One that is getting ready to break is at its prime.
I was going to ask you, in a good day, whether Gunnersville or a great grass lake, how many buzz baits in one day have you went through?
Well,
I mean, I'm talking about.
First off, I want to say, before we go to the lake, I'm holding one out the window, driving 75 mile an hour, or at least 70, trying to.
You want to get the shininess off of it.
Well, it just has a different whine against the blade, and once it gets that whine, that's wearing on the hole that the wire goes.
Don't get me wrong, it's a great bait to come out of package throwing.
Right, I
but
understand.
when you get that squeaking sound like a bearing's going out.
After a 15, 20 casts, it's going to sound that way anyway.
Yeah.
I just don't want to waste that 15 or 20 casts without that sound.
That's right.
It wears in about 15 casts. It'll wear to where all of them have that sound. But the bait in a day's time, if to where it has that sound, you're going to get about 175, 80 more casts out of it before you break a blade. And the blades are just made out of aluminum.
And don't it tear you up when the blade breaks, and you've got to get another one out
and do it and have
20 casts.
But the thing about it, though, that's why you hold them out the window on the way to the lake.
Right. You want that squeaking. You gotta have it squeaking.
You want to keep it way the way you always get bites on it, and that's heck, that's the deal with that bait.
Now the spinnerbait, I told you I was allergic to it a while ago. These past 2 years, I've doctored it up. I'd rip the skirt off, put a 5-inch swim bait on it. In a clear condition, I do that, and monsters I've caught, whether late fall, winter, early spring, especially early spring. I've done very well on it. And your old partner Clifford Dunn's with me a time or two, and we've caught some hogs on that thing.
Well,
That 3/4 ounce is a bad.
with in several big events. I mean, there's no secret to it. Years ago, I loved to fish a spinnerbait shallow, and
Years ago, you still do.
well, years ago, I'd love to fish a spinnerbait shallow, and I fished some bigger tournaments, and we traveled with a boy named Sean Penn out of Benton, Kentucky.
Kentucky Lake Beach.
And he is a heck of a fisherman, but he taught me how to throw a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait on ledges, and there's something different about a spinnerbait bite. To me, it's a lot like fishing it at night. If you're fishing a big Colorado blade at night, you're kind of doing the same things if you're doing it with tandem willow leaf. But for fishing brush piles in the early summer and in the fall, I don't think there's a better bait than a 3/4 or a 1 ounce even emerald blade spinnerbait. When you get the bites, they count, and nowadays, some of these tournaments you don't need a 3 to win. But the way we always had it was if you can get 5 bites on a spinnerbait, you pretty much had tournament won.
You got the patent on them blades?
I have dies for it's just a cast on the emerald, which is just the imprint. And as far as the daytime spinnerbaits and the willow leaf blades, that's a Lakeland blade company blade. The nighttime baits is the 4.5 and 5 is the original emerald die, which we purchased years ago from a man in East Tennessee. And they are dyed or stamped out by Lakeland Blade Company. They just add our emerald logo to the willow leaf blades.
I know you sell a lot in East Tennessee on them 3/4 1 ounce.
Oh, yeah.
Pelfrey, big stick down there.
Yeah, he catches a lot of fish down there and wins a lot of big tournaments. Heck,
What you said was
a lot of
want them big bites.
Yeah.
Well, he does.
Well, if you can stick with that, and it don't matter whether it's here or Old Hickory or wherever, if you can get the bites on a bigger bait, generally going to be bigger fish. I know Brian Choate out on Kentucky Lake. A lot of times he catches a lot of fish on 3/4 ounce hoppies.
I don't think he owns another lure in his boat other than that spinnerbait.
he won a tournament over here on Priest. I guess I was second. He gets me every now and then. Somebody sent me a message that had you let Choate beat you, and I come in second. I was like, well, that's like losing to Adam Wagner every now and then. That happens.
Who?
I don't know.
Who's that?
Our goat.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess Adam's been fishing around here as longer than I have. I may be a year or two older than Adam, but he's fished in the Middle Tennessee area for as long as I can remember. He's fishing BFLs long before I ever knew what a red man or a BFL was.
He's sure a bully.
He is a bully.
What lake he goes to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same deal. We went up to Dale Hollow this year, and he showed out up there.
You did the first day, I believe, didn't you?
Well, I didn't fish the first day. I fished the second day, but I think he got 2 checks up there. I didn't fish the 2, both of them. But these tournaments nowadays, we're spread out. In the past, we had a little circuit that we followed, the PBF and then the bite, and they kind of fell around the same area, lakes in Middle Tennessee. It kept a lot of us from fishing some of the BFLs and red men because we were trying to win a boat at the end of the year.
Let's talk about that a minute. East Tennessee, Dale Hollow. East Tennessee fishermen, they sure can draw why do you think that we can't?
Well,
I mean, you had PBF years ago.
The PBF drew big numbers. The Bite drew big numbers here in Middle Tennessee. I really think the inconsistency and the division of ABA and BFL, instead of them working together so that all the fishermen have more participation, in the past they've kind of worked against each other. And I'll give you examples. When they take tournaments outside of the area, like say the BFL takes one to Dale Hollow that's into another division's area, it takes a few of the fishermen out of the fray. When another circuit has a tournament, a national championship on an area lake, be it Old Hickory with the Ray Scott Championship, most of the area fishermen are going to spend their time trying to make the Ray Scott Championship.
Yeah.
And so that circuit gets all the play that year. And if they would make their tournaments, and I realize that the BFL and the ABA have tournaments all over everywhere, and it's kind of hard to cater to one division. But if they could make the tournaments where they were fisherman friendly and would work together, I think both would get more participation. But I also believe that even though you have increased population in the Nashville area, the guys from Nashville that are going to fish them are going to go to these other areas and fish them, and places where there's not as much to do and not as dense population are going to have more people spending their time on the water. You see what I'm saying? And so when there's not 150 golf courses around the area, and a man's either got to work the field or go fish, I mean, I believe I'd really want to go fish, you know. I really think working together would help benefit both of those draw tournaments.
I wish we could get a trail here, and you know, it just takes somebody to put it together and it's got the credentials behind them, and to be able to follow through with it for at least 5 years. That's the problem that I think that we have.
Well, I think that's why the Alabama Bass Trail has been successful, is because it had some backing by the people in the state. Yep. And they hired good people. And these things could happen. But you got to hire good people, and you got to run it professionally, and you can't. You got things got to run off your back. You can't have thin skin.
So the number one, I mean, the state's behind them, which that would fall under the Chamber of Commerce and the local municipalities. And that, to me, that's, you and me, it's talked over the years. That's where we're weak here in Tennessee. Sumner County does good. Barry out there does good, but other than that, Davidson, Rutherford, and
well, I mean, the problem here in Rutherford County for us is that they do spring fling, which is all the spring sports for high schools, and they spend all their money on that spring fling, and they don't have a ton of money to spend on events and what have you. To publicize them in our area. In Davidson County, they're raising property taxes, and they take in all the taxes. All the tourism is what comes to Davidson County. I'm not quite certain where all the money goes. But
well, that COVID going on, and
well, now's a little different. But I mean, you know, in a normal year, when things were going as they normally would, you look at all the lakes that FLW and different things, big BASS, MLF, whatever it is, have their tournaments on. They're generally not in a metropolitan area.
right.
They're in fairly good-sized cities. I guess Shreveport and Bossier City is.
I got one.
You know. All right.
I'm gonna spin it.
All right.
We got COVID now.
All right.
whether Hoppy lures or Mercury, whoever else, boating industry. And there's no tax, you're saying Davidson County's raising taxes. Well, there's no football, no basketball, no conventions. There's no dollars into the city or city or the state. So take this back on the pro side of it, say Jacob Wheeler, all the sponsors he's got. So to me, majority of these manufacturers should be looking at tightening the market up. And a lot of these guys might be cutting their sponsorship.
I agree.
They don't see how the market's going to end up on the other side, as well as maybe Sumner County tourism cutting the marketing money and not being able to have turn.
Well, if they're not getting the tax dollars in, they certainly doesn't have the marketing money.
That's right.
And that's going to be a factor as well. And to me, that lends back to the notion of it's time to work together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's
I'm not saying people can lose your sponsorship at all, but in my business mind, I see.
Well, there'll be a lot of changes that have to be made, and there'll be a lot of companies that go out of business. When you don't have, the recreation business has probably had one of its better years that it's had in ages. So maybe,
in fact, the fishing industry has.
Maybe it'll be more focused toward the fishing sponsors, where here in the last few years, the sponsors outside of fishing were the biggest ones to have, but the fishing industry sponsors, marinas, what have you, may be
looking to tighten their money up.
Looking to tighten the money up, spend their money in the industries that they get paid through.
Some of the manufacturers out there are having a hard time getting their parts in, getting employees in that might have COVID, and you might order or have something go bad or need something, a new depth finder or something, who knows? And it take three weeks, 2 months to get that in right now.
Well, I feel the pain there. I've been there before, right about to leave for a tournament and have a unit go down and have to call and try to figure out how I'm going to get a unit. End up having to borrow a unit off somebody else's boat and get a unit. Get the replacement or get the unit fixed and not receive it back for 30 days. And that's in a normal year. I mean,
But
now it's...
No, wait, we're talking about debt. Let's talk about that. How long ago was that, do you think that happened?
Probably 4 years ago.
Now, how much people would kill right now if their unit went down the day before a tournament. I mean, how much we rely on electronics.
Absolutely. Well, John Lewis basically was the first person. I call him John Allen. He's basically the first person that really showed me a unit, and he drove across one place, and I looked at him and I said, "Brother, I know this now." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, I already see what I got to see. I said, "I know what it is." And since that day, that was Gen 1 10s or something like that, and I thought I was a new kid in a candy store. And then what really made me mad is I found a bunch of places to catch fish that day, and we did really good in the tournament the day after. And I went home and went to bed, and I thought, how long have these people had this and I not known about it? And I've been beating my head against the wall, fishing those 35, 40 drops a day to catch 7, 8 fish or 7, 8 good ones, and culling through what we had without even knowing if they were there.
Right.
And then to me, that was a new world. Now it's a whole different ball game as opposed to
You just said it's all new ball game. A month ago, fishing against each other, the Old Hickory, or after tournament, you come up and you made a comment to me. You said, don't drive over them, they're there. If you drive over them, they'll scatter. Now we're talking about a live scope where you pull up, just set the trolling motor down, scan it. If they do spook off at times, like you're saying, with the motor. When that water starts getting a little cooler, they will do that. But that live scope, it's live right in front of you.
Well, I haven't had the opportunity to fish with it, and I watched some TV and watched some people using it on MLF and different FLW shows and whatever. I think I watched Wheeler use it, but he would point. He had something where he could point the thing in the direction of the fish. Yeah. I was like, man, that's crazy, and I can see unlimited uses for it once you've really fired a school up and get to moving them around. I mean, when you fire a school up and get to moving them around, those fish a lot of times will come to you, and if they pull them to you, a lot of times you go without a bite for a few minutes, and heck, in the past I just crank up and go drive over and find them again. Now you don't have to do that.
No. You flip, you just drop the jig right beside you, they're gonna eat it. I'm telling you, if somebody got into a boat with somebody who knew how to use live scope, that person who don't have it will have it the next few days.
Well, if they can get it.
True. I mean,
if they can get it.
Good. They're wanted.
If they can get it, we've had a lot of people trying to get things hooked up and in the marine industry, and everybody seems to be sold out here lately. A little bit of everything.
You taught me when I started fishing how to flip a jig, flip it shallow. Electronics come around, and that's all I want to do is try to find them offshore. But I'm still flipping.
I understand.
15 foot of water, 20 foot of water. You might be sitting at 50 and they're suspended in 15. Flipping. You take that 3/4 ounce shell cracker and you put it on our head. It's like that jig comes by and they're like darting down, man. They going after it. They gonna get it.
Well, that's I've always said you can overcast out there fishing wide. A lot of people they think they're making a long cast covered water with a big crankbait or something like that. I'm sure it does, but more so than anything, you can overcast a jig, and the main thing's fishing the strike zone. Appears to me with the live scope and the new technology, keeping that bait in the strike zones at a premium.
The day you taught me how to stroke a jig was amazing. We had 18, 19 pounds, I think, that day. That was an Old Hickory, lower end. But looking at this live scope, everything just starts coming together. You can drag that jig all day, you ain't gonna get bit. It's because they up in the water column.
That's right.
And they gonna follow that sucker down. They gonna eat it. Everything come together.
That's where that come into play too. But you're right though. Electronics has changed the game, and I mean everybody can drive around and drive over them and identify them really for the most part. But for them to actually consistently catch them, and it's proven out through all the tournament circuits and whatever, for them to consistently catch them, they got to be proficient with all the technology.
But there's an offside to that. Offset. Everybody's wanting to find them wide. Go back to the old way. Ain't nobody banging a bank.
Just like Rick Klein will tell everybody, a GPS and electronics will cause you to get away from your roots. I accuse you of this all the time. You learn to fish and learn to think like a fish, flipping them cracks of the rocks out there. if you don't, if you quit thinking like a fish and always play a video game, a lot of times, I mean, my fishing's limited with 2 young kids. I mean, I got a 12 and an 8-year-old. Both of them like to play ball. And
I'm laughing about that because when we started first fishing,
exactly opposite.
I said, no. Man, it's hard to get out there with them boys.
Yeah, it is. But the thing about fishing-wise, though, it limits the time you have to do something. And of course, this year I had a decent year, but really because COVID ended baseball and made it to where I had a few extra days to spend on the water. And when you're able to put that time in, you better be able to catch them. If not, you're just wasting your money. You know.
I did just the opposite. I fished less this year than I have in the past because all the boats there. I just didn't want to be out there on the water with all the hoorahs.
But everything going on, to be honest with you, I just heck, the kids were driving me crazy at home. I had to get on the lake. I could take one of them and not both of them, and we had a great time. But
they sure grown though, man. They sure grown. Enjoy the days, man, because one just left.
We're coaching football right now, and I'm having the biggest time. It's 7 and 8-year-olds playing football may be more fun watching than watching pros. I really enjoy it, and I got a little offensive lineman, and he thinks he's Trey Smith. So, go Vols, by the way.
I have to get to my wife on that. She's the one who watches football. If it ain't fishing or Andy Griffith, I ain't watching it.
Well, we could go on for hours talking about old tournaments and coming over here at Priest and wearing them out on the
what's your home lake?
I don't have a home lake.
No, you got to pick one or the other. What's your home lake?
It would have to be Priest. I live on Old Hickory. I mean,
which one's the better fishery?
Priest. There's not a question.
And that's crazy. The guys who, like you told me that years ago, the guys who fish Old Hickory don't like Priest. The guys who fish Priest don't like Old Hickory. But you and me fish both, and we both agree that Priest is by far the better quality fish. You can have quantities out at Old Hickory.
I question that too. It just depends. I mean, there's more 3 and 4 pound fish over here than there are at Old Hickory.
Yeah.
I hesitate for them to do anything at Priest. I'd love for them to put Florida strain at Old Hickory, but I hesitate for them to do anything at Priest because it's such a good 3 or 4 pound bass fishery. And I mean, there are so many 3 or 4 pounders in Percy Priest as opposed to Old Hickory and some of the other bigger lakes around.
And with the milfoil coming on, all the I mean, what we count 5 grasses out here now?
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, we didn't have one twig out here. And this lake is 5 years from now.
Well, and Old Hickory's been the last 2 years. Old Hickory's fished a lot better than it had fished in the past, and the grade, the average grade of fish over there is, to me, has improved. Now, some of the people would argue that point, but I went out and had some days where I caught a lot of 18-inch fish, and when you catch 18-inch fish, those are good brood fish.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of those were males, and to have the ability for a lake to have the ability to have 18-inch males in it, a lot of them, that bodes well for the future. Now, there's no doubt there's been some grass planted over there. There's been some weed beds planted over there. In the last 2 years, things have really come to life, really because of the grass and and the weed beds, I believe, because they were killed and knocked back and cut out and what have you. But it's obvious to see that some of this stuff, I don't know who planted it, but somebody planted it because
Got here somewhere.
yeah. I mean, weed beds that used to be 10 feet long that now cover the whole side of a bank. You know,
we get I marked the stringy stuff. I don't know what it is. 18 foot of water though.
Yeah.
18 foot out there. Some of these pockets you can't even get into, you know.
And it
Frog in water.
well, maybe. I mean, I ain't caught a frog out of them yet.
Yeah, we can go, baby.
I hear about it. I hadn't, like I said, when I come to the dock, I end up having to work. So they'll catch me every now and then putting in somewhere else. But when I come to the dock, I end up having to work. So
It's a good time of year to get out here and catch something too.
absolutely. Well, the fall and winter series. When does it start? The week after next?
Next week or the week after, one of the two.
Well, I believe Tim James and Dayton and Jimbo are going to be.
I hope you come out because I'm going to bust your butt, son.
I'm going to come out.
Put it to you.
I'm going to come out for sure. I'm going to come out for sure. I might.
Like it.
We're
That's the
going.
first thing I learned about you. Love that trash talk.
That's right.
You eat it up. I like it.
That's right. Well, heck, we can get out here and do what we do and have a big time and not have 9,000 boats all over. So I was reading the post in the Percy Priest Boaters group the other day, and I mean just post after post, the last weekend on the lake and the last weekend on the water, and every one of them I just scroll down. Thank you.
True.
You know,
I was going to
just grinning ear to ear, knowing that this is the best time of year to be out on the lake for us. I mean,
this counts for winterizing your boat.
Yeah.
Just call.
Yeah.
I'll put your cell phone number.
no, don't do that. Don't do that. They never would stop calling me. Never would stop calling me. But anyway, well, guys, is Mickey? It's good to get back with you.
I tell you, old Herb mentioned something to me. Maybe get out there next week or so. Maybe get that live scope out. And,
Well, I'm ready to go play.
Get Miss Shauna to get you one for Christmas.
That'd be nice.
What do you think?
That'd be nice. I'd probably need one next year. What do you think?
And you get the neck problems. You talking about face down all day, man.
Well, I don't know. You know.
You said that about an iPhone. I'll never get an iPhone. I'll never get on Facebook.
I'd still rather have my flip phone, but anyway, it's
Maybe
coming.
you got there with her
It's
back
coming.
there.
It's coming. But I mean, what are you gonna do when I get live scope? I mean, seriously, what are you gonna do?
I tell you, Jacob Wheeler's fishing partner, we've been talking to him, set his up, and he said, I cannot believe this. I can't believe it. He said, what a man can learn, how a fish reacts, the color of the bait, speed of the bait, the weight of the bait. It's everything. Just like you said a while ago, you throw into the school. I've learned, throwing that chip cracker, the school was there. Now, more than likely, they're going to be right here in front of you, don't pull it. Mm-hmm. And with that live scope, you see them right there in front of you.
I'm anxious to see it. I mean, just like the first time we drove across the school, with the old HDS 10s, knew it was on, and then really the excitement didn't come to the second school we drove across. Because the first school we drove across a little skeptical. The second school knew it was about to happen. You know what I'm saying? And of course those were the good old days on Kentucky Lake. Hope they return, but it still happens on Percy Priest and Old Hickory and
people don't realize what a heck of a drop lake this is.
Well, it really is, and
Of course, it's got rock, and that's what makes everybody mad to get hung up.
well, I mean, that rock's the reason this lake's so healthy. I mean, being a limestone-based lake, that's the reason Percy Priest thrives. I believe this grass will end up
I
helping
disagree
it.
with you. I
Why?
think it's standing timber. Old
Well-
hickory don't have it. There's very little cover in old hickory besides shore cover.
Well, I agree, but they don't have the ingredients to have a great shad base. What I mean by that is the limestone has put so much
Some minerals in it.
vitamins and minerals into the water and keeps you a Percy Priest green. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the grass is going to do to that either.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't know what the grass is going to do to that either. Now, imagine
Get out of
that.
here. Just don't tell the owner I got him.
Well, guys, we've had a big time here at lunch, and looking forward to getting on the water this week, playing with some video games. What do you think?
It's unbelievable.
Well, come back and show me.
Appreciate you,
All
Mike.
right, take care, brother.